What's up, my people? It's Dennis from Super Power Pros, and today I'm going to show you my new favorite deck. It's going to be the Charlotte Katakuri deck profile, and this one has got me top 4 already in a couple of local events that I go to, and it's actually one of the best decks, and it's been my favorite forever. My username for Bandai is like Katakuri the best or something since forever, so I'm excited for this one. Let's just get right to it. This brand new leader from the newest set is Dawn 1. When attacking, you get to look at one card from the top or bottom of yours or your opponent's life cards and place at the top or bottom of the life cards. Then he gains 1,000 power. So he'll be hitting for 7 every time you do this, which is a very great number to be hitting with. And the whole point of him is to keep on cheating and looking at yours and your opponent's life before you trigger. So you get to adjust your life and adjust your opponent's life. So that's the new thing that we got going on here. Right away, we've got our first couple cards. 4 of is Pudding. Pudding is your searcher of the deck. On play, you just look at 4 cards and you get to search for a Big Mom Pirate type card other than herself, or a Sanji card, because there's a Sanji card in the deck that's also very good for the strategy. So playing 4 of hers is a definite must. You're going to want to always see this whenever you try to mulligan in the beginning of the game. She's the one you're trying to see the most. So let's go 4 of hers. Up next, we've got 4 of this card with a really terrible effect. The only thing good about him is a 2k counter because we don't have that many. You know, yellow is new, so that's all we got. But if you want to know, it's on play. You trash a card with the trigger from your hand. You KO a guy that costs 1 or less. So almost never going to be worth it. He's garbage. Only use him for counters. That's all he's good for. I can't even pronounce his name. Like, what is this? I don't care about him. He's your discard. Your next card that you play that's a 2k counter that's also absolutely useless and garbage is the other Pudding. She is 2 costs for 3k power. She has a terrible effect that on play you just get to look at a card. Meanwhile, your leader already does that effect for you, so never ever play her. Just there for the 2k counter as a discard. Terrible card besides the counters. Whenever we get more 2k counters, we'll replace those bad cards. Next up is Sanji. This guy actually does something with a 2k counter. I like to play him in the early game because with 2 Dawn, when you attack, you get to add a card from the top or bottom of your life and then add a card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So for example, after searching with Katakuri, if you look at something on your life that isn't a trigger, you could choose to leave it there, then use Sanji's effect attack, pick up that card you saw, then add a random card from the top of your deck onto your life pile, which has a chance of being a trigger. So that's the whole reason he's there for. Basically only to play in the early game, so really good card. Combo off well with the leader. Next up, we've got Brûlée. It's just a blocker. It's 3 cost, but you're never really gonna want to play her that way. It's more for the trigger. So she's one of the best triggers in the game that you have in your deck because it's almost like your opponent has to attack twice. She kind of blocks twice because she comes from the life and then she comes onto the board and then, you know, she can block another hit. So a definite 4 of, because you want to see her in your trigger piles as much as possible. And you have your leader, like we said, can put her at the top or bottom if you see her. So that's pretty good about that. So another trick I want to tell you about Brûlée that you can do in the game that's a really good strategy that I learned about. It's that you can use Katakuri's effect. If you see Brûlée in the early game, you can put her to the bottom of your life instead, because usually when your opponent goes for game, they think exactly about like how much life you have and how much damage they can do. They count your hand and everything for the counters, and they're like, okay, I definitely got game. But then they hit your last life and it's one of these things that comes out, and then all of a sudden they have to hit again because they have to go through a block or so. To me, it's best if you see her in your life out, put her at the bottom of your life because you want to save her for later at the late game when you're about to lose. So that's the best way to use her in my opinion. Up next, we've got another Big Mom Pirate guy. It's Charlotte's Pero Espero. This is the one that's 3 for 5, so it's not bad to play him because it's a good stat line. And on KO effect, you get to look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Big Mom Pirate card, add it to your hand, and put the rest in the bottom. So this deck is around 90% Big Mom cards, so it's almost never going to whiff. And that's why you don't care if he dies, because you add another card to your hand for free. And he has a trigger that you trash a card from your hand to play him, so pretty good trigger in the game as well. Then you get to keep attacking your opponent for 5 or whatever on the following turn. So definite 4 of the card because he's essentially another searcher in the deck besides Charlotte Pudding, the little one. So good card overall. Up next, I'm choosing to play 4 of Cracker, Charlotte Cracker. This one is another trigger, the same way as Pero. You trash a card from your hand to play him, and then his effect is different. If you have a Dawn on him and you have less life than your opponent, he gets double attack and 1,000 power. So early on in the game is when you want to see this thing, and you're really lucky if you do, because it's going to put on serious pressure early on. Because he gets to become 7,000 power free. If you want to stack more Dawn on him, that's even better, because he will be threatening a double attack very early in the game, and nobody really wants to get hit by that. So you're going to either take huge advantage in the beginning of the game because your opponent lost life, or your opponent will have to discard a lot of counters early on. So either way, a crazy card to trigger off in the beginning of the game. So 4 hymns to me is one of the strongest plays to do. Up next is 3 of Charlotte Smooth A. She is like the other ones here, where you trigger, trash a card from your hand to play her. Good stat line of 5k power. So her is different. When attacking, you add a card from the top or bottom of your life cards, and then she gains 2,000 power. So this one you can say is worse than Cracker, but it's still a trigger, so you get to play her for free and then put on attacking pressure early on as well. And with her, she's better off in the late game. So that's the difference between these two, why I want to play them both. Is Cracker's good in the early game because he puts pressure there, but then Smoothie can help you push for game at the end, because you don't really care about losing life sometimes, because it's like, you know, when you have one more turn to live or whatever, and that's what you see happening. So she'll just get to pick that up for you and then gain 2,000 power without wasting a single Dawn. So that's why she's really strong. So I'm putting her at 3 for my deck profile. Like her there. Next up, I'm playing 2 of this guy. His name is Charlotte Diafuku. This one is a Dawn 1 effect. When attacking, you add a card from the top or bottom of your life, and then you add a card from the top of your deck to your life. So he has an identical effect to the 2-cost Sanji. Literally the exact same thing, except, you know, he'll have to hold 1 Dawn less, and he's just a bigger body. That's the only difference between him and Sanji. So sometimes he's good to play from your hand when you're going second and you have nothing else to play. It's a pretty strong card to play because he also combos well with the leader. The leader lets you see what you got in your life, and then Daifuku over here will let you pick what you got and what you want to add, you know? Or if you do like your trigger that you left on top, you pick up something from the bottom and then still get a new card in the life, so that you can find more triggers later. So 2 of hymns. Up next, I'm playing 4 of Weepy Hoshi, Shira Hoshi. So the actual worst stat line in the entire game ever. She costs 5 for 0 power, but she has an on-play effect that says draw 3 and trash 2. So if you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like a graceful charity. It's pretty advantageous for you because you get 3 new cards and just dump through 2 ones that you don't even want. But she's good for the trigger. So the trigger lets you do the exact on-play effect, so that's why she's pretty crazy in the deck. So it's a trigger card mostly, and if not, she has a 1k counter so that you can use it as a discard if you do unfortunately end up having her in your hand or whatever. So 4 of hers because you want to see her in that trigger pile. Up next, finally, the Yonko, the Charlotte Linen, the Big Mom. She is on play, which is the effect of life or death, meaning your opponent picks for themselves to trash a card from the top of their deck, or you get to add a card from the top of your deck to your life pile. So, and she's got a beefy stat line at 7 for 8, so that's why she's very powerful. I'm putting her as only 2 because I do have several other boss cards in the deck, so I don't want to clog it too much with it. But she's the life or death effect, so pretty neat. Up next, Charlotte Katakuri, the Aatrops. So before I even talk about them, let's just appreciate the artwork of like some of the 2 of the most coolest cards I've ever seen in the whole game. Just both, the alt art and the regular one. It's pretty neat. But anyway, on play, you get to add a character with a cost of 8 or less to the top or bottom of the owner's life cards face up. So at first glance, it looks bad because you're like giving your opponent a life or something. It's kind of bad. But that's the reason why I never actually like to do that. I only like to use them when I can use it on myself. If I have Brûlé on the field, you use him to pick up Brûlé, so that if she's on your board, you get to put her back on your life. And then once again, it's like she's holding off 2 life for you because you trigger it, play her, and then she has to block again. So Katakuri into this is a very good play. At the same time, this card here, Shirahoshi, same thing. You can play him, put her on the top of your life face up. Your opponent has to hit your life again, and she gets to trigger another time for free. So that's the whole point of the Katakuri combos. And then an 8,000 stat line for the next turn for you to attack with. So just 2 of hymns. as I play 2 Charlotte Linlen as well. So those are 4 of those boss cards. Up next, this scary beast of a card, the Big Mom. She is the 10 drop, 12,000 attack massive character here that Tom play. You get to add a life. You get to add a card from the top of your deck to your life, and your opponent has to trash a life from the top of their life to the trash. So she gives you life and death. So she's definitely good at the end game when you have your your 10 Dawn ready to go. And I'm playing 3 heroes because sometimes you want to see her, especially in the mirror. It's gonna be determined by who gets more of these, more often than not. And it's just a wild effect because your opponent usually wants to hold on to a life at the end of the game, or they think they have themselves saved and covered, but she'll just remove it for free. And again, gives you more life, so it heals you. You get to survive longer. So definitely a really good strong card to play. I played 3 hers because she's very searchable. You have searchable Peril's Peril and Pudding. And also, like I said, the leader lets you keep looking at your life almost every other turn or every turn that you want, because he can do that. And if you want to see her early on, you get to see her there. So it's very likely that you are going to see her. And if not, that's why I play a couple of other boss cards in Katakuri and Charlotte Linlen. So I chose 3 of hers as the biggest boss card with the crazy, 12,000 attack stats. So she'll be winning the games. And up next is my event cards. I'm putting 3 Thunderbolts. This is the main. You treasure card from the top or bottom of your life. KO a guy. They cost 5 or less. Very powerful effect, and even more powerful trigger that lets you do the exact same effect for free. So if you see this as a trigger, you get to adjust it, put Katakuri to make you put it at the top. You usually want to see this at the top, or anywhere it happens in the game, it's gonna really be devastating to your opponent. So a very good card overall. And sometimes you get to look at your life with Katakuri. You play a card, you put something in the top of your life that you don't really care about too much. You just do that effect from the main. And if not, you discard her for effects like the triggers of Pero, Cracker, or Smoothie. So there's all that you can do with it. Thunderbolts. Up next, this card here, Ikoku Sovereignty. It's a crazy counter with only 2 cost that gives you 5,000 power. That's so far the most you can get out of 2 costs in the whole game for a counter. And its trigger is even better because you get to trash 2 cards from your hand and then add a card from the top of your deck to your top of your life. So another card that if you see it early on, you may want to put it at the bottom of your life file, because your opponent's going to think they're winning, and then boom, the last life they hit is this card, and then you got yourself another life practically for free, because you at the end of the game you usually have a lot of cards in your hand left because your opponent kept hitting you for life or whatnot. And yeah, it's something very powerful that you can see, and just to keep you more alive for longer. So I'm playing 2 of these. And the last card that I'm playing is one of this card here, Soul Pocus. Same card as Charlotte Linlen, the character. You get to choose life or death. Your opponent chooses for you to get a card or for themselves to lose a card. So it's got a trigger for the same exact main effect. So it's good for that. Like I said, you get to adjust it with Charlotte Katakuri. Also be aware that this card and the Big Mom effect, your opponent can choose to take no life if they have no life, and then you end up getting nothing for it. So don't trigger this at the end if your opponent has no life. Just add it to your hand instead as a future discard for any reason. But that's just something you should be aware about. So that's the full deck profile here. I'm gonna make it all neat, put all the cards together for you real quick. So again, here's the deck profile in full view so that you can see all the ratios at hand very clearly, except for the glare, unfortunately. But that's my Katakuri right there, the 8-drop. And yeah, this is the full deck profile. And as usual, I'm going to be giving you suggestions for cards that you might want to add from this list, take out or remove, things that even I've wanted to do that I sometimes keep switching out, every tournament or so. So the first thing is I thought about playing one of this Katakuri from the structure deck. This is the on play. You get to look at a card of you and your opponents and then put it top or bottom. Then if you got less life than your opponent, he gains rush. So this is the only rusher in your deck, so that's why I think he's unique and kind of necessary for some builds. So I would replace one of these Daifukus for him. He's not that great because he doesn't have the counter, but in the early game, if you have less life, it's a nice little rush, and then he's very easy to protect because he's 6k power already, and your deck is filled with a bunch of useless 2ks over there. So it's pretty safe to protect early on. And also at the end of the game, when you're about to go for game and you still have less life than your opponent, this is a very good surprise factor to put in, because people typically think that a yellow deck has no rushes or they're not going to play any rushes, and he's the only one at the moment. So he might be something that I'll replace Daifuku for, because he can win you a game through the surprise factor alone. So that's one option. Another quick thing is, if you want to put the fourth smoothie, that's another trigger. It's something else you can put instead of Daifuku or instead of the Charlotte Katakuri. So a fourth of her is one of my other options. And then another one is Thunderbolt, because I only have 3 there, and you can possibly put in the fourth over, let's say, Soul Pocus, or even again, if one of the Daifukus don't work for you, it's something you can put in. And the other one is, of course, a third copy of Ikoku Sovereignty, the card that gives you an extra life. This one I may very well add instead of Soul Pocus, because Soul Pocus is, like I said, not even playable during the end game when your opponent has no life. So it's something I highly consider. It's this. But again, those are the options. This is something you could put in if you want Thunderbolt last, or that last, or a Daifuku, or like the Charlotte Katakuri. So those are many options for you guys to consider. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed. That's a full deck profile, and that's why I had to get this all leader, because it's my favorite leader of all time. It's my favorite character of all time in the whole anime. So yeah, I have to be admitting that now. But thanks for watching. We just reached 300 subscribers, so thank you to everyone that has supported us thus far. We're gonna keep up the deck profiles, battle videos, and anything else we want to do, tier lists and all that stuff. So once again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one, and like, subscribe, and comment, all that good stuff. Peace.